9 subtle ways to make him want more with you. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Number 9 is set boundaries early. Now, this is actually almost like counterintuitive because you may say to yourself, well, Antia, if I set boundaries early, I'm going to communicate to him that I'm high maintenance and I'm going to communicate to him, I'm rocking the boat. And exactly that's what you want to do because a man will treat you like a queen, but you have to know that you are one. Now, how does he know that you are one? Well, one is by saying what you do, what you think, right? And what you do, everything has to be in alignment. So when you set boundaries early, and I mean just like really just say how you feel when something happened, just like, hey, I noticed yesterday you told me you're going to call me at 5. And what I'm noticing is that, you called me at 5:15, right? Or 5:30 or whatever it is. Okay. So because it's like like you actually hand him a resume, right? So now you're telling him, okay, and that teaches my women, right, to actually do this. So you tell him like that you notice, you acknowledge, right? You acknowledge the reality. He called 30 minutes later, right? And, it just made me feel like a little surprised, right? Like I wonder, did something happen? You know what I mean? So just kind of communicate to him like, hey, not okay. You know what I mean? You can't just say one thing and then do it half an hour later, right? But hey, if you can make no problem, if you could just let me know, right? Because then I can just do X, Y, Z, and then I can be fully present with you when you call. I very much appreciate that. So very sweet, very easy, very short, doesn't have to be this big deal, right? But you communicate to him, hey, there are standards. And when you hold him to those standards, when you tell him, look, buddy, you can't get away with stealing the cookie from the cookie jar and me not saying anything, me just pretending I didn't see it, right? It's like, no, it's the opposite. It's like they love it because they want to be a better man for you. Believe it or not, they actually want to be a better man for you. Men actually say, we just got back from a wedding from a woman who went for our training, right? And so often men will actually say at the wedding, you make me a better man. Now, what does that mean? Is like they were forced to step up their game, right? They could no longer just slack off, do their thing, call whenever, but instead they're like, oh, that's right. I do apologize. I did say I call at 5, right? And the good thing is, if there's men who are like, wow, I don't want to be like, like limited like this, oh my God, this is why. Bye. See you later, alligator. Because that's most likely a dismissive avoidant attachment style who doesn't really want to be held accountable. When a man is in what I call the king archetype, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, he wants to be true to his word. His word is law, and he takes pride in it, right? Because he will also take pride in speaking to you as the queen. Now, when I met my husband, Brody, and we've been now married for 9 years, he would like, even if I didn't pay the rent, like let's say the last day, be like, oh, this is like out of integrity and all the things, right? And I'm like, okay, this is really cool, right? As is really an incredible guy because he's really paying attention and he's really making sure that everything is aligned, right? He's like, I said I'm going to pay on this day and I'm going to pay on this day. Or I said I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And so that's what you want to pay attention to when you meet a man. And when you do that, he will want to hang out with you more, guaranteed. Number 8 is hold space for your emotions. Now, what does that mean? Now, oftentimes, and I hear this from women all the time, follow me here on YouTube or also on other platforms, telling me, well, Antia, I can't express my emotions. I mean, when I do that, he's gonna think I'm a Looney Tune, right? Like I've lost it, and I'm not saying you spontaneously start screaming at the top of your lungs. I'm not saying just like breaking down without any warning. But what I'm saying is that to give a man a context, right? Having actually a relationship to yourself. So I'm going to give you an example. So when I met my husband, Brody, I said, okay, remember, what I think, what I say, what I do has to be in alignment. So I already I feel like I'm a little anxious, you know what I mean? I already feel like I have all those feelings. So why not communicate that to him? Because unconsciously speaking, he's picking up on it anyways. He does, girlfriend. Whether you like it or not, he does. Research actually shows that men are even more introspective and intuitive than women are. Now, men, the more masculine they are, that may not have as many words to describe it, right? AK, they may not have the ability to completely map it inside of themselves. However, that doesn't mean that they don't pick up on it. So I said, okay, if he's picking up on it anyways, I'm just going to tell him. I'm like, look, I have something called an anxious attachment style. Have you heard of it? And usually this causes curiosity in a man, right? Like, oh, no, what's that? You know what I mean? So how that shows up is this is caused by, so you're just going to explain. So right away, the man has the feeling like, oh, she's in control of this, right? She has a context for this. She has a framework for this. Okay. And then I tell my husband, so the reason why I tell you this is because when that occurs, my tool, how I deal with it, is I'm going to pull back to source myself, whatever that may look like, right? Meditate or go on a self-love day or whatever it looks like. So I explained that to him. So I said, so when I pull back, it doesn't mean I don't like you. You didn't do anything wrong, right? But rather, I just have to work to coming back into my center so I can come again from this secure place inside of myself, okay? So that's what it means, holding space for your emotions. When you do that, it'll be so intriguing to the man because he loves for you to express your emotions because it reminds him that of his own emotions that he has inside of himself. However, he feels safe that you don't say, you are now responsible for my emotions. Does that make sense? And it's so interesting. I have one woman come to mind, Zana, I did this work for her, and it was incredible. Her man was actually saying, what are you doing? What's happening? Right? And she was able to give him context. What was happening? He said, yeah, because I picked up on it, that something was different. And I noticed that you didn't feel comfortable and I didn't know if it was anxiety or whatever. And he was so happy. And not only that, but he ended up proposing to her. So if you have the story, well, Antia, if I do this, then he's going to run for the hills, think again. That's not our experience. Number 7 is don't communicate every day. Girlfriend, don't communicate every day. Don't text every day. Don't call every day, right? Because you have a life. You know what I mean? You have things to do. The relationship is one piece of the pie, right? But then there's all those other areas. Your profession, right? How are you doing there? Your career, your own personal development, your friendships, going out with your girlfriends, for the cocktail hour or the new yoga class or the new hobby that you're starting, right? Family time, right? Time with God, in nature, whatever that is, right? But you have all those different parts. So if you want him to want more with you, right? Don't communicate every day. And again, it doesn't mean that he thinks you don't like him. More the opposite, right? He'll be like, oh, what is she doing right now? How was your day? What did you do? Who did you hang out with? Okay. So you're going to start becoming a little interested, okay? Are you seeing other guys? What's going on? And that was really effective. I didn't do that even on purpose when I was dating my husband because that's exactly what he did, right? When I met him, we met him in Hawaii at a spiritual discussion group after church. And so, I was seeing other men, right? And so I wasn't talking to him every day. I wasn't. And so he was like, oh, who was that guy? Who was that friend that picked you up yesterday from the workshop and all those things? And so let the man get a little curious. Number 6 is leave open loops. Leave open loops. And how you do that is, for example, finishing the phone call before he does, right? Just loving it. Hey, it's been so lovely to connect with you today. I have a work day ahead of me tomorrow. I'm going to get ready for that, but enjoy talking to you. Have a good night. Oh my gosh, girlfriend, if you do that, right? The guy's like, who is this person, right? I gotta text her again. I gotta see what else is going on because there's this open loop. He's like, wait a minute, we were just in the middle of a conversation. That's right. Now the goal is not to continue to finish the conversations. Does that make sense? Because the more loops you close, the less reason he has to reach out to you in the beginning, right? And then, of course, over time it builds, and as natural curiosity is checking in with you, all those things, right? But in the beginning, you just be like, hey, you know what I mean? You're getting to know each other, but there's also some space for integration, for reflection, and for him to miss you. Number 5 is healthy tension. Now, what I mean by that, for example, is when you flirt with a man. So when you flirt with a man, that's a healthy tension, isn't it? Why is that a healthy tension? Because you don't know exactly what he's actually thinking. You know what I mean? You're like just making him a compliment, or he's making you a compliment, or maybe you're talking in metaphors, you know what I mean? Maybe you're talking in symbols, maybe you talk about coffee, but you're actually talking about something else. And true story happened to one of my clients. And I'm like, I have a feeling we're not just talking about coffee here, you know what I mean? Because it was very detailed how he liked his coffee and so on and so forth. And, but there's a healthy tension, right? Because you don't really know. You really I think that's what he means, but I don't know. And so this is so fun because when you keep this healthy tension, it creates sort of this intrigue, and it certainly creates a lot of polarity. And that polarity will translate in him wanting more with you. Number 4 is communicate into his value system. And so, for example, he, for example, can have a very strong emphasis of the wild man, right? And have other videos on the archetypes, all the things. So we're going to communicate into, let's say, the wild man inside of himself. Now, how do you do that? By stepping into your wild woman. Now, how do you do that? Well, the wild woman is very embodied, right? Is really making sure she's grounded. She feels like her feet are firmly rooted on the ground. I always say they weigh 1,000 pounds, but also there's just something wild about you, okay? And what I mean by that is letting go of how something looks like, wanting to be mature, wanting to come off as polished, but rather doing something spontaneous, right? Letting your hair down. Doing something, in karaoke, it's kind of fun, right? Because you're going to be right? For example, that would be maybe a fun idea to explore those different energies that we have inside of ourselves, but in a playful way and in a safe container, right? So that's one way as well, when a man's oh, what else is inside of himself? Oh, I didn't really expect that. Number 3 is let him solve the problem. So one thing that I see that my women do, they want to solve the problem for the man. And I'm no. No, but I researched this for him, and I now know what contract he needs for the insurance, and what happened with his son and all the things. I'm no. Present him with a problem and say, I'm so looking forward to see what you come up with. You know what I mean? I'm looking forward for, I believe in you. You're going to figure it out. I was just talking to a client who attracted to a man, and she just told him that she really wanted to do Valentine's dinner with him, and that's it. That's it. What it would mean to her. That's it. You know what I mean? And now she lets him solve the problem, right? He can find a restaurant, book it, whatever it is. It's going to be tough because it's Valentine's night. Everybody's booking. But hey, I'm looking forward to see what you come up with, right? It's you're putting trust into a man, saying you are man enough to figure this out. Number 2 is spontaneous expression, okay? And so what I mean by that is let's say you're in traffic, for example, right? You're okay, wait, we could be just in traffic and I could just complain, or I could just get out of the car and do a dance. Shakalaka, shakalaka, right? Or I could ask the man to be hey, can you get out of the car and do that dance I did last week, right? This is spontaneous expression. You seize the moment. And that moment, the man is wow, she's expanding her moment even more. It's so fun to be in the moment with her. Number 1 is bring your energy back to yourself. Look, the quality of men you attract into your life is directly proportional to the relationship you have to yourself. So if you bring the energy back to yourself, guess what the man does? He focuses on you because the energy goes towards you, and so his energy goes towards you. How do you do that? Well, for example, one way how I do it, I'm literally going to be visualizing this, right? Like I'm visualizing this energy coming towards me, coming towards my heart, right? Like maybe I visualize like a magnet on my heart and like having the man be magnetized like to that heart as well. Now, if you haven't yet, make sure to take our free love quiz to get the relationship you want fast by hopping over to getlovequiz.com or simply click that link in the comment section as well. And if you haven't yet, next watch the 5 signs a man deeply loves and adores you by clicking here on the screen or in the description. All right, lots of love, ladies. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.